Hello, everyone. This is Eric Smith from CapSim, and the purpose of this video is to finish setting up the course that we started in video 1 by setting up our industry. So I'm going to go ahead and click Setup Industries now, which is where we left off. And the first thing it asks us is which scenario we want in our simulation. Standard is how the simulation was written. It's continuous growth. The growth rates remain the same in each market throughout the simulation. In the growth scenario, it's very similar to standard. The difference is that the growth rates will fluctuate from year to year, but still averaging out at about the same growth of the standard scenario, which, just FYI, is about 14% year over year. The last option is the recession scenario. The growth rates will fluctuate for the first 4 years in this scenario. And then in year 5, there's a recession where the economic downturn is about 7%, followed by a year of stagnation. Then you'll see in year 7, about halfway to recovery. And in year 8, there is a full economic recovery. I'm going to go ahead and click standard just to keep this simple. Go to the next step where it's going to ask us if we want to make any changes to that default version of whichever scenario we selected. Monte Carlo would randomize the numbers, and custom would allow us to input our own growth rates, our own interest rates. We can even change where the markets begin by inputting an X and Y offset. So where those markets would begin on the perceptual map. For the purpose of this video, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to use things the way they were originally written and make no customizations. Go to the next step. Now here, the top option basically allows students to put themselves onto a company. In a foot race, it would allow more than one student on each company. Now, the bottom option means that only the instructor can do the team assignments in a tournament, and in a foot race, it will limit enrollment to one participant per company. Now, I'm going to go ahead and click the top option where students could assign themselves to teams. But honestly, this one is just preference. If you want to do everything yourself in terms of team assignments, click the bottom option. If you want the students to have the capability, go with the top. Now, here I want to make sure you understand the difference between a tournament and a foot race. I know these are kind of CAPSIM speak. In the default simulation, there are 6 teams. Now, in a foot race, Team A is always the student-controlled company, and they compete against 5 computer teams. So if I had, let's say, 30 students in the class, and this works really well in an asynchronous environment where the students need to advance to the next round at their own pace instead of on a set schedule. A foot race is very accommodating to that. We can have each student control team A. They'll play against the computer teams. And as far as scheduling, we would enable the self-paced option, allowing each student to advance to the next round of their simulation whenever they are ready. So think of it like if I have 30 students in the class and they're doing this individually, they have 30 different simulations that are ongoing. Now, in a tournament, this would be the more conventional course delivery. We can have any mix of student and computer teams. It's recommending one team in this example because I said there was only one student in the class. Had we input something like 30 students, well, it would recommend that all 6 teams be participant controlled. Now, these teams are all going to advance to the next round according to the schedule that we input as the professor, and they're all going to compete against one another within the simulation. Now, in our platform simulations, so Capstone 2.0, Capsim Core, Capsim Global, Capsim Ops, all of our newer simulations do have the option to have up to 10 teams. So if you did want to create a course that was more than 6, the rules are they have to be all participant controlled teams, and you just need to click this button if you want more than 6 teams in your industry, and then you'd go to the next step. I'm going to go ahead and set up a foot race because if there was just one student in this course, I don't necessarily feel the need to input a schedule. I would probably just enable that self-paced option. This is also how we create professor practice games so that you can undo rounds. You can advance to the next round whenever you're ready. This is really conducive to asynchronous, or if you want to have sort of a practice sandbox type environment, I'd use a foot race. If we were all on the same schedule, I'd always recommend a tournament. It's just more fun to teach, and it's more fun for the students to compete against each other than against the computers. Okay, enough on that subject. Let's go to the next step. It's going to ask us if we want to include human resources in total quality management. I would advocate yes, you should include both of these modules. I like to include them in round 2 for HR and round 4 for TQM. But the rule is if you want to have your industry be comparable with everybody else, so if you want it to be top 10 eligible, you cannot start HR before round 2, and you cannot start TQM before round 3. So if you wanted to turn them on as early as possible, it would look like this. If I tried to start HR or TQM sooner than what's allowed, you'd see you're no longer comparable with others from around the globe. So if you want to have those percentile rankings, be sure to follow those guidelines. As far as the modules themselves, they're not overly complicated. There's a one-pager that explains each optional module to the students, or you can review that as faculty if you want to familiarize yourself with how they work. Another reason I like to include them, they're both helpful along with not being overly complicated. So if I do enable these modules, my students can perform better than if they don't. And last reason is I like to use the balanced scorecard for grading, and there are some points allocated to HR and TQM on the balanced scorecard. So for all those reasons, this is the setup I use. HR and 2, TQM and 4. Let's go to the next screen. Here it just wants us to confirm, yes, we want a foot race. This is what that foot race looks like. I'm going to go ahead and click create industry because this is what I wanted. And now I can see my industry ID. This is what students would need in order to register for my course. They would need to know that CP number in this case, because Capstone 2.0 always starts with those 2 letters. That brings us to the end of this video. Just to recap, in this video, we set up our industry for our simulation. We decided on foot racer tournament. We decided upon optional modules. If you have any questions regarding your course setup, please feel free to give us a call. It's 877-477-8787, or you can always email us at support@capsum.com. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Bye now.